How many kids do you guys have?
For sure. Thank you.
Okay, let's get started. Let's see.
Yeah, we have
Not too bad.
Emery right there.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's see. Are you guys back here for the workshop?
Yes, sir.
I want you to come up. Come up. All right, so I'm Jerry Mintz. I'm the founder of the Alternative Education Resource Organization. Before I did that, I ran a democratic school for 17 years. And that school was kind of like a big unschool. Nobody had to go to classes unless they wanted to. All the decisions were made democratically. And it was an amazing place. And I also have an online course for people who want to start new alternatives that starts next Monday. And it goes from September to January. And through that course, we've helped people start about 100 that we know of alternatives. I keep on running into people saying, oh yeah, we started our thing because we looked at your website. And, and of course, that we don't ever have any way of knowing anything about. And hi. So we have an annual conference every year. This year it was in Portland, Oregon. And this coming year it'll probably be back in New York. It's been various places. And we have a regional conference coming up starting on the 30th of this month. I have a little flyer about it on the table there. And it's in an off-the-grid location in Massachusetts. We were there last year. We loved it so much we've gone back this year. And Peter Gray will be hanging out with us there. Yeah. He was a keynoter for us out in Portland too. So. And we've got other pretty amazing people that are coming. It's very small. I mean, it's limited to maybe 40 people. And so it's going to be really nice, vegetarian food and solar stuff and nice property and so on.
Limited to 40 participants?
Altogether, yeah, something like that. I mean, people we can get more if they want to camp, but the limit is that it's sort of like mattress space in the big house. It's kind of rustic. And it's very cool that we did it last year. All the people in my house are going to be going there. I've got 5 people who live there, including a Nepalese family that helps me out, and their 5-year-old who I've been helping to raise and homeschooling this year, unschooling. And I would have brought her here today, but she's got soccer this afternoon. So. Just starting. She likes it. So we have people who are looking for alternatives, who want to start them. We want to spread the word about them, let people know that they exist. And so that's, in essence, what my organization does. I brought a few books. They've already been snatched. A lot of them have been snatched up, but what's left is on the table there. Some of these books we publish. We do publish our own books, and then some of them we carry for other people. So that's basically. I'm going to show you a few slides just so you can get little visual stuff going on. And then. I think I'm just going to be mostly open to your questions, so you can hit the lights there. And let's see if this is going to work. Okay. All right, so this is Pono, which is in Central Park East area. East Harlem. And it is actually a homeschool resource center started by one of our school starters. And they got an incredible location right across from a nice park. And those are some of the kids there in that program. And this is a homeschool resource center that we helped to start in England. So we have people all over the world doing stuff. It's amazing the people that we hear from. And this is called A Place to Grow. And it's in Stroud, England. And I went there actually a few years ago and met with the parents and stuff like that. And that led to the establishment of this place, which is now in around its third year. And now they just built themselves a building. And all the kids are homeschooled, and they go about 3 days a week, I think. This is in a yurt that they have. I don't know why this is like that. It's sort of, I wonder if there's a way I can get the picture. You didn't set it up right for me. Oh well, you'll see the top and the bottom.
Do you want me to get it?
I don't know if they're going to all be like that, but... Oh wait, what the heck was that? I have no idea what just happened. No, it went to something entirely different.
Do you want the light on for a second?
Yeah, maybe. Let me see if I can find where this is now. Let's see. What's that? No?
Usually if you go down on the bottom, something will pop up.
I have no idea. No. Well, I somehow got out of it.
What's
No,
the
I
name of
don't-
the
I don't-
program? I can find it for you if you like. I can find it for you.
Okay.
Do you know the name of the program?
Yeah.
What is it?
It's in this thing called Staples 2.
Okay.
And it's under Staten Island. And so, well, why? Oh,
Use it there.
okay. Now we
So
got
two
it.
fingers like that will.
I guess. Okay. So I got to run.
Mouse.
But I was just hitting this thing. Let's see if this works. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, let's see. I don't even want to try to go back. So these are people who actually helped found a school. They came to a couple of our conferences, and they started, again, it was a homeschool program, and it's in Bogota, Colombia. And I actually got to see their place. Well, you know that because you see me there. When I went I was invited to speak at a conference in Colombia. Let me see if I hit this, what happens. Okay, yeah, so this is, look at it, isn't that beautiful? It's an incredible place that they, and this is a meeting that I had with the parents. Okay, let's see. Yeah, that's how you do it. Okay, pretty cool. And these are some of the kids there. And this is very cool. You saw the other place, Pono. And there's another school that we started called the Agile Learning Center in Manhattan. I don't know if you've heard of it, but it's, again, pretty much an unschooling program. And they got the idea of how to do their, make their days, organize their days from having visited those two places. So this is an example of what they did down in Colombia. And then here's Peter Gray, who was a speaker at the Aero Conference this year out in Portland, and he was fantastic. He talked about stuff that, he said he's never done that presentation before. We have it on video, where he talked about how schools evolved from the hunter-gatherer society afterwards when it got agrarian. Very interesting. And then, of course, do you know who that is? Sugata Mitra. And so he was at our conference a year ago, the Aero Conference, and from India. And so he's the one who put the computer in a wall in India, just to see what would happen, and in a very low, in a slum area. And the kids would come around to it. They taught themselves how to use it. They even taught themselves English in order to be able to use it. So teachers get upset because it kind of shows that they're not necessary. But they really are. You know, I mean, he actually has a kind of a network to communicate with some of the kids that are doing this kind of stuff with these grannies that help mentor some of the kids. Very interesting. And this is at this year's Aero Conference, and this is a group of homeschoolers from Oregon, in a program that they have there, and they did a whole presentation about, you know, what they do individually and so on. But this is one that is actually funded by the public school system, and the parents actually get money to buy stuff. Pretty interesting, huh? And so this is from our regional last year in this place I told you about, this kind of off the grid, called Earthlands. This is what some of the property looks like, except that this year you'll see all the trees with the change of season leaves on them. And this is one of our workshops inside there. And this is also at the regional last year. These are some of our staff members that went last year, and we're all going to go this year too. And so now, as I said, we have an online course. And so these are some of the kinds of things that we do to help people start the new alternatives. Before we talk about the different types of educational alternatives, then we clarify their vision, and people present their vision. And you see, this will go to everybody in the course. It's on a website, and so you access it as you have time. You can get credit for it, but most of the people choose not to because their bottom line is to try to start their alternative. And you can actually get 2 or 3 graduate credits from Antioch, New England Graduate School. So you post your vision, and then anybody and all the other people can, you know, after you've introduced yourself, you know, you put your vision up, people can comment on it. It goes back and forth. It helps you clarify it. Then we talk about governance. So that's on several levels. It's, do you need a board? Do you want to be a for-profit, a non-profit? And then within your organization, do you want to make decisions democratically involved with all the students? How to build your community, the school community, and how to work within your broader community. The legal requirements, and of course we have people all over the world, so it's very interesting. In some countries, in some places, alternative schools or even homeschooling are not legal. Technically, even in Quebec, it's not legal, but people are doing it. So that we have a discussion about that, the legal things, and then finding, you know, creating the right environment, which includes the culture of your program as well as physical environment. What kind of buildings to start in, how to get buildings to start with. Financing, how do you get the finances to start a new alternative? How to raise the money, how do you budget it, do you need insurance? Recruiting teachers and students. And then the first days of your program, how do you start off? And action plan. So that's basically it.
What website gives you this course?
When people sign up for the online course, then we give you the code to get to the website.
Oh, so how do we sign up?
You go to the Aero website, educationrevolution.org.
Right, educationrevolution.org.
And then if you go to the website, you go over to the resources section, and it's the top item, on that website, and then it's a place to enroll. It's $1,000. That covers everything, including any books. You don't really need much because most everything is actually on the site. Videos, audio stuff, things to read, and stuff like that. And we still have a few openings, and there's some scholarship stuff available. We just actually, because so many people asked me for scholarships this year, I actually put up something to our network yesterday asking him to make donations to help cover the cost of scholarships, and we've already got about $1,500 in since yesterday. So we have a very actively supportive network. We get our e-newsletter. You can sign up for our, if you go to educationrevolution.org, you can sign up for our e-newsletter, and it comes out every week. And it tells you all the things that are going on. So that's it. Put the lights up. And let's see. Whatever. Leave that. So that's basically what we do. And I think we'll just do this in the unschooling manner and say, any questions? What do you want to know? Does anybody here want to start a new homeschool resource center? You do. Okay, so why don't you describe what it is you have in mind?
Well, my first experience with anything like this was just discovering a website and learning about North Star in Massachusetts. And I came yesterday and I listened to Ken, and I had emailed him previously. So I'm currently a high school English teacher, and it's miserable, and I don't blame my kids at all. And I would love to be able to provide something, because there's so many students that are just so unplugged, that are running through the motions, running the hallways, and it's a waste of
Where is this?
some of the best years of their life. I'm in Teaneck, New Jersey.
In New Jersey? Oh, okay.
So and there are so many students that are just profoundly disconnected, and I would really love, and I've kind of hinted, like, you don't need school. My kids don't go to school, so, and I gave one, whatever. So I'd like to try to come up with some kind of center, just to help them move on with whatever they want. If you want to go to if they want to go to community school, to try to community college, to connect them with that, internships, and a place to hang out and be together with other teens.
So what age level would it be for?
My idea would be high school.
High school.
High school. I mean, junior high would probably be okay. I'm not in the field enough, but I would think high school would be. Yeah,
as Ken, you should probably find out from Ken, those kids start young, and they finish that whole process young, and they go on to whatever they're going to do.
So there's turnover.
Yeah, we helped them start their thing a long time ago.
Yeah, he said 20 years.
20 years?
Ken?
Yeah.
Yeah. Ken Danforth, or Danford is, he's one of the co-founders, or the co-founder.
With Josh Hornick.
Yes, okay.
Yeah. So I met them at a play. I actually met them before they started this thing at a gathering that Mary Loya organized in Massachusetts. And Mary, hi. Where are you going? Over there? Oh, I see. Okay. And so Mary's like 95 years old now. She's the one who started Albany Free School for her own kids. Anyway, so that's where I met them and kind of helped them through the years. We promote their stuff and all that. So, okay, so junior high, high school. Would you want to set it up so that they could go there, and they would need to be homeschoolers, or would you?
Well, the thing in New Jersey is that all you have to do is write a letter to the state.
Yeah, it's easy to become a homeschooler in New Jersey, although most parents don't know that.
Yeah, so, and by the time they're teenagers, really they're making their own decisions. I mean, parents may think they have influence, but the way kids act in school, it's clear that they're making their own choices, which is fine.
So here's the thing to know. And this is something that actually Ken talks about. If you set up a program like this, the ones who will be loyal to you will not be the people who were previously homeschooling.
Yes.
They will be the people you helped to homeschool.
My understanding of what he does, and my understanding would be it's almost like a halfway house. Like, how do you, because I think that in my environment, everything you can do without school. Like, it's heresy, it's crazy talk. And, sort of reach out to people who might benefit from it, and to convince them it's not really crazy talk. I think that would be the point of service.
And this is around Teaneck?
Well, I'm in a town right across the river from Patterson, and there are beautiful warehouses, and I was like, if I had my way, if I won the lottery, if I could talk to, I would get a huge warehouse and do like a mini auto shop, you could put stuff all over the place, have a garden on top,
And are there some of them empty?
Some of them are, some of them have already become, I forget if it's gentrified or regentrified, honestly.
Become what?
But gentrification, like they're built and they're being these beautiful apartments,
Oh.
like the town's being. But there are warehouses both in my town and in Patterson. I know, I'm sure I can get something cheap.
Yeah, so one of the things that's worth a shot is you talk to the owner and say, how would you like to let me use this thing? And you can take it as a tax loss. So there are things you can do. But a good way, one of the best ways that our people wind up starting is in churches. Or synagogues or whatever. There's one in New Jersey that's actually in a synagogue. That's the South Mountain Co-op.
Oh, I've heard of them.
Yeah, they're nice. And I think technically those kids are homeschooled. Yeah, New Jersey is good that way. It's much better than New York. In that New York, it's still, you can homeschool everywhere, but there are more things required in New York, and they technically want to call you a school if you're taking more than 5 kids more than half the time. I don't think that's really enforced, because Pono is doing something like that, and they're fine.
I'd be more interested in really trying to be a center and being like, here's how you can step away and here's how you can move forward. And
Well, the way around that in New Jersey, at least until you get established, is you have the adult ratios in the building. A friend of ours started an actual Montessori school, and until she was able to get the title of school situated and all the insurance that goes with that, she just had to have people, adults in the building to keep the ratio of them. I think for the little kids, I think it's like 1 to 5 or 1 to 6. But like, my kids aren't participating in Montessori, and she would just say, like, email people, could you just like come hang out for a couple hours?
Mm-hmm.
But if I didn't want school, I might have different, but I'll still have insurance issues.
Yeah.
Yeah, insurance is sometimes expensive, but one of the best ways to get it is that you actually have an insurance company that you use. Talk to them about making a rider for it or something like that. You know, that is one of the best ways to get a decent rate, because they have kind of a vested interest in giving you good prices for things. You know, we do that. We get insurance on the Aero Conference every year through somebody who's referred to my local homeowners, and it's $1,000 for. It's not that bad, you know. And so now you say more of a. So in other words, you wouldn't want kids to be able to come there all the time, or they.
I thought his idea that like you need to go get a life, so we're here 4 days a week. It was a concept I hadn't considered, and I have to see what the needs of the community was. I want to meet their needs. So if they needed 5, but I think I like the idea of like the.
What hours would you operate?
I'd probably do something like school hours, but I was also thinking I might be able to build more community if I open this up to kids who go to school in the evening.
After school.
And then build something where it was just kind of like a center for kids.
That could be tricky, because I'm not saying you can't do it, but when you're getting school kids in there, they're going to be continuously blowing off steam.
Yeah.
You know. Now I learned a lot when I was teaching table tennis at a recreation center, and kids got so. It's my other passion, table tennis. You know. And I play in leagues, I play in tournaments. I just won an age tournament a week ago. And so I'm good at teaching. I've taught thousands of kids. And so I realized when I started this recreation center, this table tennis center program, that we needed to have some way to make decisions. So I just said, okay, let's use democratic process. It turned out to be amazingly powerful. And I was talking to a kid, he's not a kid anymore, but I hadn't heard from him for 10 years, who had been one of my table tennis students until he suddenly left about 10 years ago. And he decided he wanted to get back into it, and contacted somebody who he thought might know how to reach me. And then he emailed me. And it was amazing talking to him, how powerful this had been. But one of the most powerful things, he remembered, for example, the same meeting, a particular meeting that I remember very well. And that was an issue that came up in the table tennis club, where the best player, we had a challenge ladder, and the best player decided to lose on purpose to his cousin to get him up the ladder and then beat him back. And so there was a big raging discussion about the ethics of this, and so we had a meeting. We started out in a side room, but then we had to give up the room. The kids would not quit the meeting. They wound up putting chairs in the middle of the open space with everybody running all around us to continue the meeting, where they had to yell to be heard, but they would not stop until they made their decision, which was that this was considered, going from that point on, to be considered against the rules, that you would go to the bottom of the list if you broke that rule, but that they wouldn't apply it to this kid because it wouldn't be fair because he didn't know about the rule before he did it. Unbelievable stuff. And he remembered that meeting because it impressed me so much that those kids were so determined. And these were public school kids, but they had bought in so much to the idea of that they had the control of this club, that they wanted to make the right decision about it. Amazing. So one of the things that we actually do in the online course is tell people how to do democratic process, and that's in my book too, of course. So that's interesting, and so that becomes tricky sometimes, depending upon what you're doing. Ken doesn't really have a democratic process in North Star because the kids come and go so much. On the other hand, Pono, which and Kalapa in Colombia and so on, they are homeschooled, but they are there regularly, and they do have democratic process. So it's something for you to think about in terms of your structure. If you want to have that, maybe you need to have something more consistent.
I would be more interested in something, I don't want to say transient, but something where we were trying to get them out into the world. I don't have a specific love for democracy per se, and everybody if they wanted to, they could, but if they chose not to,
and by the way, you'll know about this, and of course you can actually see it from our website, because I have an article about governance on the website, is that we actually evolved a different decision-making process that we learned from the Iroquois, the Mohawk Indians. And so in other words, one of the things that sometimes people are concerned about with democratic process is what they call tyranny of the majority, where a decision is made and a lot of people didn't like it, but that becomes the rule. So what we evolved that we learned from the Mohawks was that once something is passed, the minority are polled to ask why they voted the way they did. Now, people could say, well, they had the chance to talk, but still sometimes it doesn't happen that way. And so then they will sometimes say something that causes everybody to change their mind, you see. And so then anybody can call for a revote. And then, if it passes again, okay, then that's it, but if it...
Robert's Rules does that.
Well, it's not Robert's Rules.
I'm just wondering, that is because I know I've heard minority opinion before.
Yeah, because it isn't Robert's Rules. And so that, Sudbury basically follows Robert's Rules. And so does Summerhill, more or less, not in their own way. I told them never to call me here, so let me see, who is this? Hi, Faye. I'm doing a workshop right now, but I'll call you later, okay? My table tennis coach. Chinese. She used to be on the Chinese team. She's really good. This process really has worked well for us. It takes a little bit longer, but it seems like it's much more effective. We taught it to a lot of people. Anything else you want to ask about that right now, or?
I'm so far from doing it. I'm really doing it if I wasn't doing it. So it's something that, my family's depending on me. It has to be something viable. But,
what would you charge? And how would you finance it?
I really don't know. I mean, right now, I'm a rich benefactor. And I've already worked on like trying to create videos and stuff to put on YouTube. I've written a couple of things up and I'm getting feedback on them and just trying to put them on YouTube. If there's a TED Talk near me, I would try to apply just to get out and that way. And be known anyway. I would ask for funding, but I was thinking if it starts like this one student I have, like I'm gonna talk to him again. I'm probably gonna go visit his mother.
You know, that's always, I think I would say always, a double-edged sword. If you find one source of funding, and it's not something you control, if it's a rich benefactor, if it's a grant, foundation grant, if it's a federal grant,
I don't want
if
any
it's
government
public
money.
school money, what?
And I wouldn't want government money. The idea would be startup. Ultimately, I would like to take tuition, but I would also like have the idea of some kind of sustainable. There's got to be a way to make it sustainable.
Yeah.
There must be. And
Well, there are
so
ways.
I was thinking about that too. Either something we produce or something that we make, like, maybe students can afford tuition, or perhaps they can contribute some labor that would produce a product that we can.
Of
And
course.
I know it's a transient population, but there are different ways to contribute to the cause besides just.
Yeah, then again, we talk about this, in the course. I'll give you a few examples of what some programs have done. There's one Democratic, it's the only Democratic boarding school in the country that I know of. It's a Highland school in West Virginia. And they're kind of in a remote sort of rural area. They don't ever get enough local kids, so they have some boarding kids that they've taken in there. They started that program. And they get people to donate oil and gas wells to them, because there's a lot in the area. And people can take that off their taxes, and they actually can run them. And that's one of the ways they finance it. There's another one, Clonlara. You probably heard of Clonlara, home-based education program in Michigan. And they actually had a Democratic school there, but they wound up funding it from starting the home-based education program. So that then this Albany Free School. Mary Lawyer, who I told you about before, she wound up, you can come in, she wound up buying up a bunch of inner city row houses and, at auction and stuff for as little as $500. And then the whole community would get together and rehab them, and the rent money has been running the school ever since. So, I mean, maybe half their finances. So these are things you can do. I know another school that had a bakery, and others have certain kinds of fundraising events that are effective. For example, at my school we had a bingo, and it was organized by one of our kids that we took on scholarship, and he wanted to make sure kids like him could keep on going to the school. He organized it, made about $100,000 for us over a couple of years' time. I became a licensed auctioneer. Auctions are good things you can do. You can go around and get things donated and have periodic auctions. So these are some of the kinds of things that you can do. One of the schools that we helped to start was Brooklyn Free School. And Brooklyn Free School has a gala every year. They make about $15,000 at that. They have developed a mailing list. They send the mailing out to the mailing list periodically. They make about $5,000 at a time that way. And here's the most important thing, and that is that they have a sliding scale and tuition. And that's what I believe in. I don't like to see elite organizations and schools. And so the sliding scale goes down to whatever you think is viable, but what people, and so that's how you wind up having a cross-section.
Who does that, Albany or Brooklyn?
Actually, Albany does it, Brooklyn does it, Agile Learning Center does it, Pono does it. Because we helped except for Albany, helped them start, and so they do that. And now Sudbury doesn't, and that I would say the original Sudbury doesn't. I think some of the others do, but the original one said, well, anybody who lives in our neighborhood can afford to come to our school, we're cheap enough. That's, yeah.
Did you ever hear of that school, Tesla, something, the people that make Tesla cars actually have a school where they learn all hands-on? I don't know if it's in.
I don't think it's Tesla. I think it's somebody else from that. Yeah, you talk, the alt schools.
I don't know what it is, but I read it once.
There's somebody out there. Was it Mung? Maybe, I don't know. Who did who had started these alt schools, and there's one in Brooklyn, and there's some in the West Coast and other places. And I've had a difficult time communicating with them. They're very, what's the word for it? Entitled. Hard to talk to them, and the problem with them and some others that I know is it's hard for them to learn because they can't let other information in very well, and so they get kind of born again about their own programs and cultish.
Right.
But
that's what I would like. I would like a vocational center.
yeah, well, that certainly is becoming more and more popular, the maker movement.
Yeah, and we have a maker space on Staten Island, and I set up programs there all the time. We have a woodworking program coming up, but it's so pricey. And I try to negotiate prices.
Well, they
have to make money too.
yeah, the Agile Learning Center does that, and they have stuff like 3D printers and
that's where?
in Manhattan.
In Manhattan.
And they have programs. It's quite an incredible history. I'll just try to summarize it for you. When we started Brooklyn Free School, we wound up having a waiting list right away. We didn't like that idea, and so when people from Manhattan approached us about wanting to start something, we encouraged them to start something, and they started Manhattan Free School, and partly based on the waiting list for Brooklyn Free School. But the trouble is, I wasn't able to get very involved with how they organized, and there are pitfalls. This is another reason for doing the course, because there are things just never to do, And one of them is to just have a haphazard board. And in this case, they would just pull anybody off the street practically to be on their board. And some of them were sort of these, what I call, young anarchists. And I say in quotes, because I don't think they really understand what anarchism is. I think they more have conflicts with their parents. And so they absolutely would not have a director. Well, the problem is they needed to have a director. You have to have a coordinator. It's a job. You can have it set up so that the person can lose their job if they're not doing it right for the community, but it's a job. And so because there was no director, it was just a mess right off from the beginning. I think it's taken forever since then for them to recover from it. Amazingly, though, they would call me in every time they had a crisis. So I would go in and sit in the meeting, and we try to solve it, and so on. And I mean, meanwhile, Brooklyn Free School's thriving. They're building up to 80 students, still with a waiting list. We bought a building for $1.7 million, and all that kind of stuff. And eventually, Manhattan Free School did find a good space, but it's in East Harlem. The building's nice, but some people might not want to go there, But on the other hand, it's a great little space, and it's got a little cafeteria, it's got a gym, and a bunch of nice rooms. But at one point, there were more internal conflicts, and they invited me to come in for their final meeting before they dissolved. So I went to that meeting, and I said, look, you guys have here assets that our school starters would give their IPs for. You have your nonprofit. You have a building. Okay, so you're out of money. So you're going to have to get some volunteers to run the school for this year. And they did. And one of the parents temporarily, took a leave from his job, which he was doing on his own, software stuff, and he became the director. And since he came from that field, he applied the Agile Learning Center agile learning concept that they have in that to democratic education. And it has caught fire. It's just amazing. They are starting little agile learning centers all over the place. I got an email today from somebody in Canada, says they're starting one in Montreal. You know? So, that's the history of it. But that's an example of a pitfall. And if they still only have about 20 kids in the original thing, they should have 100. You know, there also needs to be a limit if you're going to have a democratic process, but 100 would be okay. Another pitfall, as long as we're talking about pitfalls, is don't set up your program as a co-op. Because if you do, it becomes all about the adults and their infighting and their needs, and the kids kind of get lost. Yes.
Okay, so that's my big worry. I'd love to set up a resource center, but the people that I know that would probably want to participate, some of the parents are a little much at times for the kids. So
it has to be
their opinions and views. So how do you avoid that?
It has to be your program.
Okay.
You get help. I need help. I need help with this. Can you help me with this? It's got to be your program. And even if it's a nonprofit, you're the director. You see? And so that's the way. And I'll give you an example of how not to do it again. I had a group of people on Long Island. And Long Island is funny, you know. I mean, Long Islanders are the hardest to deal with of any place I've ever been, because they think they have good schools, and that's why a lot of them went there. But so they wanted me to start a school for them, which again, this is a consumer attitude. And I said, no, I'm not going to start a school for you, but we can talk about something that can be started. And then at one point I said, you know, it's not practical, really, to start a school on Long Island. It's going to cost you a lot of money, but you could start a homeschool resource center. No, we could never homeschool. We could never homeschool. And by the end of the year, they came around to realizing that was the only practical route they had, and some of the people became homeschoolers. And then, but I made it clear, somebody needs to, you know, be the director of it. And this one woman who was really kind of spearheading a lot of this, she found a building that they could have 2 floors of in East Meadow for $200 a month.
What?
I know. Incredible.
How'd she find that? How do you find these?
Yeah, you look around, you ask. It was, you know, nonprofit. They liked the idea. You know, the church might do that. You know. And so they went out there, but she set it up as a co-op. She did not become the director. And a very ambitious woman jumped in to kind of grab it up and make it her thing. And to the extent that the original woman who, you know, organized it wound up pulling her kids out. And after about 2 years, it just imploded. And that woman, this is a good 10 years ago, maybe 12 more, 14, I don't know, is still involved with grabbing things up in this movement. For example, there's a homeschool organization on Long Island that she wound up grabbing and taking over in such a way that somebody had to create an alternative to it. And so, yeah, that's what you run into. There are people who have that need. And so you should not do it that way.
So let me ask you that, because I'm on the flip side of that.
Yeah.
I'm in Midtown in the city,
Yeah.
and this is all very new, this whole concept. From I literally just found out what unschooling was a week ago,
Wow.
to I just found out that there's homeschooling with curriculum, homeschooling without curriculum.
Where are you?
I'm on 2nd Avenue and 51st.
In the city?
Yeah.
Okay.
And I literally am just, you know, I started this for different reasons.
So you
that
have
I
something going already? It started?
No,
Oh,
I
okay.
was basically trying to figure out
Oh, what to do?
what to do, and then I heard about these family co-ops, and I was just like, oh, okay.
Mhm,
So instead of me paying a ridiculous amount for private school, why wouldn't I just meet up with a couple kids, and hire a teacher to go through and do homeschooling a few hours a day or something like that?
Yeah.
So then that's where my head was on that. And then it was like, okay, then I find out that there's all these different curriculums and such, and I'm like,
No.
my head is imploding from all the information.
Okay, so a few things. Number one, you should go visit Pono, which is not far from you.
Uh-huh.
It is right on, you know where Marcus Garvey Park is?
Yes.
That's where it is.
Okay.
Right on the corner.
Okay.
Marcus Garden Park?
Yeah,
Harvey.
right on the corner. Marcus, right across the street from Marcus Garvey Park. And it's a great little place. Really terrific, and they're doing an amazing job.
So this is, Pono is the homeschooling.
It's a homeschool resource center, but they charge up to $20,000. You can do that. You see, you don't have to be a school to charge people for what you do. They are a nonprofit organization. They're not a school.
But they charge people to join 20.
Of course,
That's
they have a
like
program.
Mintz,
The people charge you for going into their karate program. Yes, whatever. I mean, you can charge for what your program. Don't have to come. If you want to come, here's what it costs, and they have a sliding scale. So there are some people in that area, which is becoming a little gentrified, they can afford the $20,000 enough that they pay their pretty steep rent
When you say 20,000, are we talking
A year.
A year.
a year.
In Manhattan, they start talking semesters.
Yes.
That's why I didn't
Oh
say-
yeah, no.
I'm sorry.
That's
I
not
said I
bad.
can't do that.
That's not bad for Manhattan. It could be 40,000 there. Yeah.
So typically, is it often reflective, if you're charging, is it reflective kind of in line with what a small private school might
Yeah.
charge? Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
But cheaper. Yeah. And that's cheaper for that area. So, what are you bringing me? No.
Jerry's hungry.
What? What's in the bag? No.
And
All
I
right.
think trying to also wrap my head around all the different types of programs and stuff, how do you choose between those?
Okay. Here's one I think you should look at for what you now have discovered. It's called Global Village School. And it's
Okay.
globalvillageschool.org.
Okay.
And it's in California. It's, it can give a high school diploma, California high school diploma. They are very flexible. I use them for unschooling. So I've had several kids that worked as interns in my office, and they were basically unschooling, doing what they wanted to do. And no, you're too young. Later. I thought it might be appealing, and so what we would do in those cases is we would record everything that they did, make a log of it, how much time they spent at it, send the information to Global Village School, and they would give them credit for it, and could make a transcript, and eventually a diploma.
And Lori Spiegel has something on the New York Homeschools website, a different one.
Who?
Where Lori Spiegel,
Spiegel, yeah.
She used it for her kids, where it's the same concept, where as an unschooler, you pick what class, whatever you want to learn, they'll make up a transcript for you, and it's like $250 a
Who?
year.
Lori does that herself? Or?
No, but she recommended it on that meeting.
You don't remember what it
page.
was? Which one it was?
No, but it was the one she used for her kids.
Okay.
So if you go to the site, but
Yeah.
she sets it up where you're an
Lori
unschooler.
Spiegel. And she actually does classes for kids in Manhattan, and she comes to our conferences all the time. I've known her for so long, going way back. Anyway, so Fun Lara is also fairly flexible, and so that's another one to look at. They're pretty flexible. Fun Lara in Clonlara, Clonlara, Lara. Started by a former Catholic nun who got married and had kids and wanted something for her kids. So those are some resources for you. I would take a look at those places. I would check out, if you're going to contact Global Village School, I would ask for Sally, who's the director, and you can mention me. And so we have a nice relationship with them. She's been to some of our conferences and stuff like that.
And these are more of unschooling.
They know they can do it. They have a curriculum, and
Yeah.
you can follow their curriculum, but you can also they can also do unschooling. They can do what you want. They're flexible.
Mm-hmm.
You know, you can do a combination. You can unschool and then take a course with them. That's true. You could, but not yet.
But so if I'm in the thing where I'm full-time, you know, I'm working all the time, so I can't, you know, do the schooling myself.
Uh-huh.
It's not for me to do the schooling, it's to try and find someone like, you know, potential you that could say, okay, here's a program, here's, you know, I do a very experiential learning. That's, in my mind, how I see a lot of this, you know, and
So
kind of
you're
just
working
free flow.
full-time?
Yeah,
Doing what kind of, is it a home or,
construction management.
so you're out?
I'm out in the field usually, you know, and it's,
Yeah, it's one reason why if you get together with a bunch of other people, you can, so you're not homeschooling now,
no.
but if you get together with a bunch of other people, you can work something out. Are you working every day?
No, but not now, but starting this in about a month or two, I will,
You will be.
yeah.
Because sometimes, I know some homeschooling parents that are working just a few days a week,
Yeah,
and then they work out something with other parents, and then they take the kids in a day and go like that.
yeah,
I'm doing that with actually one parent on Long Island now who's got a 5-year-old,
okay.
and we get together tomorrow. She'll be there with her kid.
I feel like, you know, I like having the security, obviously, knowing that someone that's going to be with the kids for long periods of time
Yeah,
I'm not saying that they have to follow rules and go and say, this is math time, this is this, but I'm not opposed to, you know, somebody who obviously I prefer that has an educational background. Because
Yeah.
I don't want to pretend that I do, and, you know. There's nothing wrong with that or anything, it's just my comfort level, you know, that's all it comes down to.
well, of course, you need to know who you're working with.
Yeah, and you know, and because you brought up that pitfall originally, I was like, well, maybe I'll find parents to work with or something, but just how he explained, one parent has a different idea of the program
Right.
versus the reason why I'm
It's
trying
very
to.
tricky because what you're dealing with 95% of the time
Yeah,
is people who haven't grown up with this experience.
yeah,
You know, so you just have to hope that you've got people who get the idea,
yeah.
you know, and can manage to put it in some kind of perspective. It is tricky.
Yeah.
I would say too, for you who's still not quite in the thick of it yet, there's a lot in your area. Try some of everything.
Yeah.
Because we've been at this a few years now,
Yeah,
and we have run the gauntlet of just going through and finding, because sometimes even you meet the parents who at the time are on your wavelength, and then in 6 months, their kids want something else or need something else, and it shifts. So
Got
you
it.
just have to get
Well-
it in there.
well, that's why
and kind of
That's
find.
one reason why,
Yeah,
if
yeah.
you set up a program, the ones who will stick with you are the ones that you help to homeschool, not the ones who are already homeschooling. Yeah, that's how it works. Are you homeschooling now?
We are unschooling.
Where?
In New Jersey.
In New
We're
Jersey.
in Jersey City.
Where?
We've been talking Jersey City, so
Ah.
we're right in Hoboken, basically.
Uh-huh.
And so we've been talking about trying to create a space, because we do a lot, or I and the tribe that I've created essentially, we do a lot of advocating for alternative learning and homeschooling and unschooling for people who work or have different issues that they feel like make it harder
yeah.
for them and make ourselves available.
Yeah.
And say, all right, you gotta work these days, your kid can come to me on Monday and Tuesday, she's got you Friday and Saturday. So that's one of the things that what we've been working on. We would like to ultimately have a space where, for people that's a concern, hey, coming out, hold that. And so that's where we're at in creating that for where we are. But just as a new person, try everything.
Yeah.
Meet a lot of people, and it all starts.
How many people are you working with?
I'd say we have about the core group is about 6, and then there's a lot more people on the fringe who can commit to like a couple of hours on a few days.
6?
Yeah.
And what ages are they?
So school age where we are, so it's at 3, anywhere from 3 to like 10, 11 is the range.
Okay. Yeah, by the way, I think it's nice actually to have that kind of spread in ages, you know. For example, lately, well, it's just funny, you never know what's going to happen, you know. I'm homeschooling 4.5-year-old who lives in my house, Nepalese girl, and her parents helped with my organization. This is a dollhouse we discovered yesterday with me and my chiropractors. And then we went to the Queen Zoo a couple of days ago, and there's a South African kid whose mother knows my sister, and she's going to move back to South Africa, so he's not going to school right now. He's 13. So he came with us, and so he's 13, but you see, here they are. Isn't that cool? At the Queen Zoo. That was just 2 days ago. So I think that there's another 13-year-old who comes with us who actually just got here from China. The niece of the woman who called me here, my coach. And she doesn't speak English yet, so she's not going to school yet, so she's come with us a couple of times too. And again, Arosia just got along fine, you know, with her. They were doing a lot of stuff at the Queen's Museum together. Yeah.
Well, on Staten Island, there's over 100 families here, you know, so some of them have their own little group already. I don't know what I forgot what it's called, CC, it's like a Christian thing where they meet once a week. I forgot, I know, Classical Conversations.
Okay.
So they have their own group, but I just want to get together more unschoolers.
Yeah,
Because even though we get together and the
They're
kids
a little
play,
harder to find.
Yeah, there's a few of us that are here, but I know
So I
there's
think maybe
more
with
of them.
Facebook it's easier these days. I refuse to do social media. I have other people do it for me. I just
Right.
hate social media. And I have my hands full with everything else anyway, you know, running the conference and the regional and the online course and so on, and sending out e-newsletters to 12,000 people and getting 100 emails a day. I don't need Facebook. But
Like Facebook
that
either,
seems to be the way to find them.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, you know what, I find a lot of, because we took over a Yahoo group because the lady passed away. I don't know if you know Elsa Haas. She's the one that helped start the homeschooling be possible legally in New York. So myself and this lady Bonnie took over the site just so all her knowledge is still there. But a lot of the people that are on that Yahoo group, they don't want to be on Facebook. So there's a lot of people, like unschoolers don't want any part of social media. So that's why I'm trying to like say, all right, there's a makerspace program today, there's a theological thing this week. Like I'm trying to get more out, but it's hard because I do also work, so I'm trying to juggle all this crap. But
Yeah, by the way, more and more homeschoolers are finding ways to work at home. You know, and that's one way to do this. You know, there are ways of doing that. Even in your regular job, sometimes you can work out of home now. You know. Anybody who hasn't brought anything up yet who would like to bring something up about something you want to start or organize or questions you have about this? Anybody else doing something like organizing something who hasn't said anything yet? Yeah.
I've already spoken, sorry.
What's that?
I've already spoken, sorry. I wanted to know because I was really really love the whole unschooling idea. And we have a lot of them where I am, but they're closet unschoolers. Like they don't really want anybody to know that's what they're doing. Or somebody will criticize them because they participate in a math program because they feel that's important. So therefore you're not an unschooler. And so there's a lot of judgment. So I really like to open something where it was comfortable and you could unschool. So I'd like to offer, you know, programs, but I would prefer it to be kind of like a meeting place, like a meeting of the minds, because a lot of these kids have great ideas, but they don't have the space to have the freedom to get together and do these creative, you know, projects. So is there any way that I can kind of establish that, like, are they typically, when you have these unschool resource centers, are they, these homeschool resource centers, are they like a school environment, or is there the ability there to kind of leave that a little more open for child's interpretation?
I think she's asking,
Well-
is there like a model?
Is there a model?
Yeah,
Like
like
a
do I have
typical
to?
model, or is it just kind of,
No, I think everybody
call
that
it a
has to do what makes sense for their community. So there are some, but in the process of doing that, you want to look at as many examples as you can. Wait, now where are you again?
I'm just outside of Toronto.
Okay. Yeah. And do you know of anything like that in Toronto?
There's nothing. And somebody said to me here that there was a woman and she has something, but I haven't been able to connect with anybody that's actually doing anything where you can meet up where you're not a religious-based group. So we're not participating.
Have you heard of?
participating in
Have
any
you heard of?
religion.
I think it's called Compass in Ottawa.
No.
I think that's for homeschoolers.
Okay.
I think it's something like North Star.
Oh.
Yeah, and it's in Ottawa, and it's called, I think it's called Compass. But if you go to our website, educationrevolution.org, and go to Canada, and you probably can find it.
Okay.
And you might find something around Toronto too. Now, you know, there's been an effort to try to start some kind of alternative school around Toronto for a long time, and there have been things that have started. There have been Sudbury programs that have started, but they folded. And my particular theory about it is they tried to be too much like Sudbury Valley School. And maybe there wasn't a market quite for that there.
Right.
And there's another one that they've been working on for a few years. There's a guy by the name of Carlo Ricci, who is the co-author of my book, Turning Point. So I still have it here. Yeah, that one. And this is a very cool book. It's got kind of a lot of the pioneers in the whole field of learner-centered education. But Carlo Ricci lives right around there.
Okay.
And he's a good resource. If you write to me, I can put you in touch with him.
Okay, perfect.
But I think you could even Google him, because he's a professor at one of the schools there and so on. And he'd be a good resource for whatever might be in that area. And people who might be in that area who are interested in what you're doing. But again, if you organize something, I would organize it as make an organization that you were directing.
Okay.
Other questions? Anyone else doing something that they haven't told us about yet? What are you doing?
Me?
Yeah?
I was laughing before.
Yeah.
When you were saying that there's people who you bring into homeschooling and stuff here. So, you sort of like introduced me to homeschooling.
Ah.
I'm always like on board with her.
Oh, okay, cool.
They're just cracking up.
And where do you live?
Jersey City.
In Jersey City. Okay, good.
And she came to one of my events that I did a chocolate factory tour in Staten Island. We met like 2 years ago. I just call up people and set up like, can we come, can we go, and but it's a lot, because it's a lot of
You
money.
call them up and organize it.
Yeah, but it's annoying. I have to call one place, try to negotiate a price,
Yeah,
and then
yeah.
keep track of the list of who's coming, who's not, who
Yeah.
doesn't show, and make sure I don't get screwed paying the difference. That happened a few times. Now I learned to tag
Mm-hmm.
on an extra few dollars. Like I'll say if there's 30 people, it costs $5 each, but you pay me $7. in advance. Because you always get your friends, I'll just pay you cash there, I'll just pay you cash there,
Yeah.
and then, yeah.
Meetup.org, you do that?
Beat up.
Meet up.
You know what, I do get the emails, I haven't done any, but
Because there's a payment system through that, and you can also do.
it usually goes through PayPal, but
But everything, so everything is done on our own city?
Staten Island.
It was Staten Island.
But you know about New York, homeschool is at Yahoo groups, that, I'm part of that too with Manhattan. You have to pay like $14.76 for the year, and you get discounts on online programs, you pay like $5 a year
Where
or
is this?
something. It's just a Yahoo group run by Twinkle Burke.
Oh.
It used to be free, but she started getting, like,
She
where so many
charges,
people
she charges you to go into the group?
Yeah.
Well, it was free, but what was happening is she would set up like a group deal where you pay $3 each, and then people will call on the company instead of her, and then it became a mess.
Oh.
Where, she would say, she would write the rules, you have to, if there's a problem, you call me, and then people don't read the rules, because people don't read. And then it got to the point where she had to do triple the work, and then finally she won at one point, and I understand, because I set up a lot of these programs in Staten Island, and she's like, all right, I'm just gonna charge now. And it's $15, and to me, it's worth it from all the free, the stuff we get, this free stuff. But, the people that left that group that were mad, they probably never set up a program yet, so they don't know what's involved. And I'm dealing with 100 people in Staten Island, she's
Yeah.
dealing with, at that time,
Yeah.
500 or 700, so I'm
Right,
thinking, I
right.
couldn't even do what she did.
Yeah,
So
but-
I think she deserves a salary for what she does.
Yeah,
You know?
I don't know if I know her. There's a lot of times I think I don't know people, and
Right.
I do. But I've heard of her.
Yeah,
And
she
there's
does
several
well.
other people who were, including, what's her name, from the city. There's a couple of people that, they're making a living doing this and charging for it, but they're providing a service, and it works okay for them, So I don't begrudge people if they, one of the problems with a lot of people that we deal with and so on, is that people just expect everything free.
Right, and, yeah.
And the problem for us in that respect is that we actually are running an organization, it's all we do.
Yeah, right.
And so, we have one foundation that gives us some money, but not that much. And so we have to depend a lot on our earned income, what we can do from our conference and from the online course and from advertisers on our website and from membership and so on, And so some people understand that, and then some people don't. It's very different if you've got some other means of support and you can afford to give stuff away free. And we always give away stuff free anyway. In fact, just yesterday I put an e-newsletter out, as I said, where I was trying to raise money to give scholarships for people who have been contacted us from like this South African group that wants to do something, and somebody in an impoverished area of Colorado, and they want to start something and they don't have the money to. So I said, okay. Yesterday I said, we need $5,000, to try to take these people in, and we've got about 1,500 of it so far, since yesterday. So we'll see what happens. But some people, there are certain people that get it, and other people don't.
But there are places in New York, like The Rock, where the kids go there all day.
Yeah.
And there's programs and.
What is that? What is that? What is it?
Is that near Chelsea Piers?
It's a resource center?
Yeah, it's like a resource.
It's called The
center.
Rock?
Yeah.
And there's another one,
And
and
they moved.
New Direction is another one,
Different direction.
different direction. But this is through the New York, what is the correct?
Nigeria,
No, not Nigeria, New York Homeschoolers Group.
Homeschool New York.
Homeschool New York at Yahoo Groups.
You mean
It's a Yahoo.
yeah,
That's
the listserv.
And then the list of all these stuff like this,
Oh, yeah.
debate teams, even with Nigeria and.
Yeah,
so
we
there's plenty
actually
of stuff where
started
the kids can
Homeschool
go
New York
all day
with a
and-
meeting
Yeah.
many years ago. Yeah.
I
So
just
that,
want more on Staten Island, that's why I'm always calling, because I don't want to go to Manhattan.
yeah.
Because I end up working in the afternoon, so then I have to stress if I have to be home by 2:30 or I have to be home by 3.
Yeah.
So how many
So-
people here actually are trying, either running something now or trying to organize something? So you, and you, you, maybe?
I'm a client.
Yeah? All right.
Let's just put that there.
Yeah, so you might take a look at the online course that we have. Or just go to educationrevolution.org and see what we have and see if it might be useful for what you want to do. And we make arrangements with everybody depending upon what they can do, because we're nonprofit and our mission is the education revolution, which means that we want to make learner-centered education available for kids everywhere, and we're all around the world. You wouldn't believe it. In our course last year, we had people, at least a half a dozen people from different Arab countries that were trying to do stuff in Abu Dhabi and Bahrain and Oman. Isn't it incredible? And it's really everywhere. For example, and now there's a big thing, South America. It's been kind of a black hole for us because of the language barrier, you see. And now, because since I went to Columbia, now we've got a lot of people. I gave them free membership in Aero so that we can kind of network them, and then there's some people I know who are going there and are going to be visiting and studying some of these schools. I visited one in Guatemala that's really kind of a neat program in Guatemala City, and help them through democratic process and all that. So it's happening everywhere, all over the world. Why? Because the system that we are operating on, that 95% of the world is operating on, is based on a system that is just not functional anymore for what we need in this millennium. It does the opposite of what's needed. Instead of helping people become entrepreneurial and encouraging them to follow their own interests and to go deeply in that, it does the opposite. It pulls them away from it and tries to standardize them, and it makes no sense. I tell you, I had a bad attitude from the time I was a kid. When I was in high school, I wrote this when I was 14, 15 years old. I hate this darn unthinking school which professes to teach you the golden rule. You fool me and I'll make you a fool. Against this I will rebel. Many's the time when I've hated to stay, when the bored, boring teacher had nothing to say. But no, says the teacher, you can't go away, and this I will also retell. So I learned what the bored, boring teacher had taught, and thusly I learned to be bored on the spot. And ever since I've been bored at the thought of the trash that the school has to sell. Oh, I'm sure education in school's not all bad, and I'll know things of interest when I am a grad, but the camouflage job on the interest is sad, and the learning won't sit very well. And so every morning at just 9 o'clock, I rush into the school, and behind me they lock the door to my prison, and I start to walk through the prison from cell to cell. If I had a bad attitude, you could see that.
Almost
I
like
think a lot of
Dr.
kids feel
Seuss.
that way.
Following Dr. Seuss there.
So and when I was, I guess, the same age, I organized my friends. They were in the elite, I wasn't. But I wasn't interested in getting their top grades and all that kind of stuff. But and we had organized a club in which we could discuss anything we wanted. And I realized that was my first school. We would meet 2 or 3 times a week. We'd have our own guest speakers. If we didn't know the answers to certain things. And so people ask me, well, where did I get this idea from? Well, I think I got it from my grandfather. My grandfather was a brilliant thinker and lived in Boston. I lived in Worcester, Massachusetts, and we would go in there every week or two, and he'd sit down with me, and he'd say, what do you want to learn? Well, that seemed, of course, perfectly normal to me and natural, but when I realized school wasn't going to be like that, well, I said, well, that's not right. I want it to be that way. And so that was, I think, had a very, very powerful effect on me. So we discussed things like the ego, the id, and the superego, theories of humor, the causes of World War II, and all that, when I was 7, 8 years old.
Wow, that's awesome.
So actually, speaking of causes of World War II, I'll leave you with one. John Gatto. Everyone know who John Gatto is?
No.
Some people never heard of him.
No.
John Gatto was a public school teacher in New York City for 27 years. And he was given an award as Teacher of the Year, first New York City and then New York State. And what he used to do is he would take his kids and sneak them out of the classroom into the community and cover for them. And they would be going out and doing internships and interviewing people and all this kind of stuff. And then when he was making his acceptance speech, he said, I have some friends that are teachers and they seem like they're pretty good, but they can't get anywhere. But now I understand why. The system is psychopathic. He said everyone should take their kids out of school and teach them at home. This was the public school teacher of the year. So this made quite a splash. And a little while after that, he contacted me because he didn't do things in a small way. He rented Carnegie Hall for a presentation on alternative education. And he asked me who we should invite. So John Gatto is unbelievable. But in that book, Turning Points, he tells this story. Because in Turning Points, we asked each person what was their education, what was their epiphany, their turning point. What do they do about it? What are they doing now? So he told his. He had been sent to a Catholic boarding school when he was about 7 or 8 years old. And that day, one of the brothers, Jesuit brothers, was going to come in and tell them about the causes of World War II. Now, this is not too long after World War II, so it made some sense. And so this guy came in and he went on the board and he listed the causes of World War II and said, now, who can put their back to the board now and tell me what the causes are of World War II? And being very, compliant, and I raised my hand and I said, I can, brother. And he stood up there and he rattled off the stuff that had just been written on the board. And the brother said to him, Mr. Gatto, I just don't know what's to become of you. I lied to you. Those weren't the real causes of the World War II. What makes you think they were? You just think because I have a collar, this means anything? He was like traumatized, but in a positive way. And from then on, you can see why he eventually wrote something called The Underground History of American Education. and he also dumbing us down. So that was John Gatto.
And he also took out an ad in the Wall Street Journal.
Huh?
Didn't he take out an ad in the Wall Street Journal saying, I quit?
Oh, yeah, I
He
quit.
said, I quit.
Oh, yeah.
That was after he won all the awards.
Yeah, after that, he won the awards. I quit, I think.
Yeah, I quit, I think.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then,
Okay, I think we're about done. Any more questions? Anyway, thanks for coming.